Between the calm clouds, the sky over the whole continent was silent, alone in grief and incredulity. The quiet breeze that afternoon was the highest expression of the heavy sadness that Africa felt, exhausted by the feeling of loss that controlled it. Because of its downcast mood, for many years Africa had remained passive, refusing to speak with the Orishas. It resented the absence of protection. The Orishas blamed themselves. Hey there, humans. This is going to be a particularly special video. I'm very excited for it because I want to talk about Lendas de Dandara, which is a book that really deserves an English translation. I learned just the other day that apparently it's just received a French translation and been published in French, so that's awesome. And we need it in English, but instead of listing all of the reasons why I think it would be an important book, I wanted to get some expert opinions. All right, go for it.
You first. You said you. Oh, you first. Fine. My name is Chloe.
Okay, how old are you, Chloe?
7. My name is Rosie, and I'm 9 years old.
All right, we're recording. Would you please tell me your name and age?
My name is Hazel. My age is 11 years old.
My name is Zakai and my age is 10.
My name is Aslan, and how old am I? I am 7 years old.
And who's this down here?
This Oreo.
I'm Oreo and I'm 3 years old.
She is. Just say that just Calvin. She's scared. She just say that just Calvin.
And I like shoving my head in this bed for some reason.
Do you guys like reading?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Two of you that do, what kind of books do you like to read?
Dogman.
Hmm?
I have one book.
You have one book? Okay. So what's your favorite books?
I like Charlotte's Web.
Dogman.
Dogman?
Dr. Seuss, Mr. Brown, can you?
Okay.
The book that you just read.
What are your favorite books in general?
Dogman. I like Wings of Fire.
Okay.
I like Dogman, like she said. I do like Captain Underpants.
Mm-hmm. I've got this book here.
Just take the book. Look at the pictures. Here, look. Yeah.
The Legend of Dandara.
I thought it was Dandara.
It could be Dandara, but it's about the daughter of a goddess who was sent from Africa to colonial Brazil to liberate the African people who'd been enslaved by the Portuguese.
I cannot read that all, but I can try. How about we all take turns?
It's Portuguese house.
I can try to read. I can try.
It's not English.
I know.
Do you guys read any Portuguese?
I don't know Portuguese like at all. Like I don't
Skim through it because it's similar to Spanish.
There's some pictures in it. Okay.
Based on the pictures that you saw, and you can keep looking at them, what do you think the book's about? Chloe, I know you know.
Does that give you an answer? Something about the other page. Yeah, the other page.
Sit next to Rosie.
Some sort of quest that the main character's on. A dancer? I'm just guessing by this picture. I think it's about trying to fight back to go back to their land.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't know who's their land. Here, look. Oh, see? Oh, I get it now. Yeah. Well, they're yeah. Okay. Yeah, I get it. Yeah,
Sam, you ready to be in the video?
Yes.
Okay. Did you want to get a closer look at the book?
Sure. Okay. So can be funny.
So the book starts with a meeting of the gods where they try and figure out what to do about all of the injustice in the world, and in particular, what's happening to all of the African people who are being taken away from their continent. And the god Iansa, who is in control of the wind and the weather, decides that she's going to create a warrior who is a part of her and her own daughter, and send that warrior to Brazil to help liberate the enslaved peoples. And she takes this little baby that she makes and drops her off in the nation of Palmares, which is an independent nation that was created by some fugitive, I guess you'd say, folks who decided that they didn't want to deal with being treated poorly by the Portuguese, and so they went off into the jungle and decided to make their own country. So the book is about a woman named Dandara who was sent by the gods of Africa to Brazil in the 17th century to try and liberate the African people who'd been kidnapped and enslaved.
Wow.
That's interesting.
I want to read this book.
You guys are all still pretty young. Have you started learning about this history in school at all?
No. Sort of.
Sort of? With the United States?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
I learned about that in 3rd grade.
In 3rd grade.
A bit. Not
Okay.
exactly a lot.
And you're in 3rd grade right now? Or 4th grade?
She's in 2nd. I'm in 4th.
You're in...
second. They're both in 2nd, but I'm older than him. I'm in 4th. She's half a year older than him.
Okay, so we've got that cleared up. So Dandara grew up in this country, Palmares, and she dreamed of being a great warrior and leader one day. And when she was young, she showed that she had some magic powers. She was able to miraculously cure some wounds on her adoptive mother, and she eventually got to meet her real mom, Iansa the goddess. And Iansa told her that she had a destiny. So for the rest of her life, Dandara worked hard to become the greatest leader that she could be. And she ended up doing lots of exciting things, like when she was a teenager, she stole a horse from some Portuguese people who were trying to find where Palmares was so that they could attack it, and she stole their horse. She, as a young adult, went on a trip into the Portuguese city, and she got on a slave ship and liberated the people, and they turned the ships around and went straight back to Africa. And she had one burning passion to help people. She also loved the people that she was around. So she had this friend named Zumbi, who was set up to be the next leader of Palmares, and they fell in love with each other and led the people together. And it's a really good story.
I'm trying to find that page.
Where she's with Zumbi.
Yeah.
It's a little further. It's closer to the...
Is it a picture?
Yeah, there's a picture.
Okay. Nope. It's okay.
It's okay? We don't like kissing? Here it is, the infamous kissing picture. When you were studying the history of slavery, what about it stood out to you as really important to remember?
That I think that I remember mostly African Americans were slaves.
Mm-hmm. And
Black people.
mm-hmm. And that wasn't an okay thing, right?
No.
Yeah. So that was happening here in the United States, and at the same time, it was also happening in Brazil, and it happened a lot for a longer time in Brazil. And like, do you remember when slavery became illegal here?
Yep.
Hmm.
I think around the late 1800s. Yeah.
Yep. So slavery became illegal here in the 1860s, but it didn't become illegal in Brazil until the very, very end of the 19th century. So almost 40 years later, 30 or 40 years later. And so it's really important in Brazil for people to learn about that history. And that's part of why the author wrote this book, was so that people could learn about not just the fact that Black people were enslaved, but that Black people also fought back against that injustice. Would you be interested in reading this book based on just that knowledge? Yeah. Hazel, you're Portuguese American, and Kai and Adeline, you guys are Cape Verdean American. How often do you guys read stories that have anything to do with Portugal or Portuguese-speaking Africa? Yes?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't got a question. Bye bye. Okay, bye. I just have to go grab a juice.
Would you... Would you guys like to be able to read more stories like that?
Yes.
What about, how often do you guys get to read stories with Black people as the main characters? A lot. Is that really important to you?
No. Black Lives Matter. Yeah.
Oh, you weren't in the camera. How often do you guys get to read books with Black protagonists?
Not very often. Not exactly. Not very often, like she said.
The dog books out. The chief is black. Yeah.
Casa Grande?
Could I
Dog
offer
man?
some reminders? Well, you guys have read Zoe and Sassafras. That series.
Yes. I haven't. I have. Now, come to think of it. No, not that one. I feel like there's another one.
It's true that there aren't a lot, and I try. I mean, we have some picture books.
Dogman has some black characters in it.
It's
Chief,
that's true,
like the
Dogman.
Chief and some of the
Captain
officers.
Underpants.
Oh yeah, Captain Underpants. That was the one where George.
Yep.
Yeah, George
George,
was.
Mhm.
Good version. He'll make comic book for
Cool. Me too.
So then what do? Blah 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 blah.
Would you guys be interested in reading more books with Black characters?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
Most of the ones I've read are like really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you could read the book in English, would you?
Yes, I would.
And
It's a really interesting book, and I would really want to read it.
And do you think that other kids your age would want to read it too?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah?
I'd write like a little note at the back of it and say you should really read this book. It's really interesting and it's a really cool story.
Okay.
Weird.
All right. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit further so we see all of you better. Uh-oh.
He's trying to narrate.
He's
angry because he doesn't get the spotlight. He wants the spotlight.
I like the she.
I think
She wants the spotlight.
Yum 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 yum.
I think she wants to go hide. All right. Well, thank you guys for being part of the video. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Dandara is a children's book, which is why I wanted to talk to children about it, because who knows children better than children? Well, maybe a children's librarian. Bethany Coito of the New Bedford Free Public Library sat down with me to talk, and she gave me this infographic, which shows that 50% of books published in 2018 had white protagonists, followed by animal at 27%, with all other ethnic groups making up the rest. I'm going to leave her interview uncut, so enjoy. Okay. Tell me, who are you?
Hi, my name is Bethany Coito. I'm the Youth Services Librarian at the New Bedford Free Public Library.
We've talked about this book before.
Yes.
I'm going to pass it over to you again. So I remember you saying that it was the kind of book that you would look for to add to the collection.
It would be, definitely. Just by the cover, we definitely like strong women, and knowing from what you told me that it's based on a true story, nonfiction has been incredibly popular lately. A lot of kids are having a hard time comprehending fiction, so by knowing that it has some nonfiction element to it, it really gets kids more engaged with it.
Yeah, that's when I was interviewing the kids, every time I would get to the point where, and this is based on a true story, they would all be like, what? This is real?
They just light up when you know that it's, even if it's just partial truths to it for historical fiction, they just get more invested in it.
So, in general, when you're looking to add books to the collection, what kind of stuff are you looking for?
It's a very good question. There's a lot of elements to what I'm looking for. One major thing that I look for is what race the main characters are and what the plot is. A lot of the African American literature out there for young adult kind of repeats the same narrative. So we're looking for books that'll explore more diverse experiences, more authentic, books that kids can relate to, really. A lot of kids' books, like about 30% of them or so, the main character is an animal, and a lot of kids just, they don't connect with it as much as they used to. And I think it's really important to show that representation in what they're reading.
So, in general, in the United States, they say that less than 3% of all things published each year are published in translation. Do you have a general gauge as to how many translations you've got here in the kids' room?
So just in the children's room, when I first started, they were actually still being interfiled with English. They weren't in a separate location. So that was one of the big tasks that I did, was pull them, make it their own home location, and order as much as I could find for it. We have local schools that have dual language programs, so having bilingual with Spanish is really important. I wish we could find more Portuguese titles around because it's really hard to get a publisher. We are pretty limited to who we can order from, so that's kind of a tricky thing. Ingram really only supports like bilingual translations with Spanish. It doesn't, and even then it's not. We've had a few kids that have pointed out like some slang in the Spanish, and they're like, that's not what we would say for that, and they can tell that it's, European Spanish being translated, not what their culture is. So even that is pretty tricky.
Yeah. So this book here deals pretty specifically with Brazilian history. Do we have a large Brazilian? We have a large Brazilian population here in New Bedford. Do you think that having more Brazilian or Portuguese inspired or translated works would be a draw to get people into the library?
Absolutely. I think if we could have more Portuguese titles, Cape Verdean Creole titles, that would be a huge draw for us, and we could support more readers in our community. We have a huge population of Portuguese and Brazilian Portuguese. I don't know if I should include it, but when I was in high school, there was actually a local factory that was raided, and a lot of them were illegal Brazilians, and they were deported. It was a huge crisis in 2008. So like that kind of tension is still there for Brazilian versus mainland Portuguese. So yeah, you can definitely see that.
Yeah, there's a whole deported community in the Azores too, where it's like they used to live here and then they got deported. Yeah. And there's a huge community of Americans that, were here without papers and got booted.
And I think a huge way to have a better sense of community for anyone being here is to at least offer something in their language. Especially for kids, it's all they know, so they want to have fun reading. They like all different topics, they like the variety. So a lot of kids find it kind of funny when they pick up like a Spanish bilingual book and they try comparing their English accent to a Spanish accent. And you'll see them like kind of quiz each other, and I think that would be really helpful for language development for any language.
Yeah, I know over at the Casa Library, they've got within their kid room, they've got an entire section of here's in English and here's in Portuguese, and they pair them together, 2 separate books. You can check them out together if you want.
And that's like the perfect pairing. We just recently ordered Wonder Books by Playaway, so that has the chapter book inside, and then you open it and it has like the recording in it. You can just plug your headphones in, and even that publication, they only do English and very few titles are in Spanish. So even something like that product, that should be made available in more than just Portuguese and Spanish. There's so many other languages that are spoken around here. I mean, just today we were being asked for French books.
Yeah, we were. I remember that.
And we had calls from Chicago about Chinese books, so it's definitely in demand.
Yeah.
People don't really trust the Google Translate service.
And as they should not. Now, I want to ask you about this infographic.
Yes.
I'm going to just pan down.
You can keep it.
I would love to.
So over the summer, the New Bedford School Department, their middle school is working on their curriculum, and they wanted to have more inclusive, kind of like culturally responsive titles. They noticed that a lot of their curriculum had really outdated titles. A lot of them were still focusing on the classics, and Of Mice and Men is not that relatable to kids in 2021, almost 2022.
No, it's not.
It's not engaging for kids, and there's so much more literature out there. So I did a presentation about what is being shown in children's books. So the infographic shows that about half have a main character being white, and that's problematic when your schools are not 50% white, never mind your language base. And then almost a third of them are animals as your main character again, and that's for middle grade and elementary. High school is not so much for those statistics, it's more for, I would say, like grades 8 and under. And it's problematic when, you know, you're African American, it's 10%, and this data was done in 2018, so not much has, well, they're slowly getting there. You definitely have to make a conscious effort when you're ordering books to know who your patrons are, to know what your community is, what your demographics look like. There's not many kids that come in anymore and they're looking for a dog book. If they are, they kind of want a picture book with the main character being a silly dog, not so much as
like Dogman.
A chapter book. Exactly.
Every single child that I've interviewed has brought up Dogman.
Dogman.
Yeah.
The
Today I learned
hero.
that Dogman has a substantial cast of black characters, because I asked them if they read books with black characters, and they were like, Dogman.
Dogman. And I think graphic novels is so amazing with encouraging diversity. A lot of kids really struggle, especially bilingual kids, with fiction chapter books. And a huge way to do that is when they have illustrations in it. So more teachers are embracing graphic novels, so that's really exciting. They're using them for summer reading, they're using them for classroom projects, and more kids have been coming in looking for diverse titles for it. And I'm excited to see that the teachers are updating their curriculum.
Yeah.
It's well due. And it's good to shake things up.
Yeah. And I like this book. It's not a graphic novel, but it is illustrated, and I just love the artwork in this book. It's beautiful. I will say that there is a kissing scene, and every single child has found the kissing scene and gone, ew.
We found it right away.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's not really shown in a lot of kids' graphics. They don't show healthy relationships sometimes. They don't kind of explore that. I think more translations would help kind of explore different themes. Young adult kind of gets away with everything. Like there's no censorship for young adult anymore.
Right.
And I think middle grade is kind of exploring what boundaries they can go to. We're seeing more titles like that include immigration. That's been a huge topic. A lot more being published about poverty. So really good that that's being exposed.
All right. Any further final thoughts?
I think that's kind of scary, that statistic of only 3% of everything that's published.
And that's everything
I
that's
mean-
published. That's including classics, retranslated things,
crazy.
information books, textbooks. It's like when you try and narrow it down to new fiction, it's something like 0.8% of everything published in the United States is in translation.
Like, I have a hard time trying to find publishers from other countries. That's something that I try to do. It's definitely worth using like Diverse Finder, any resources you can get out there that will show what other books are available. Don't always pick kind of the safe books. Definitely try to encourage, show that it's represented inappropriately. I think that's been done better in the past few years, especially for Indigenous narratives. That's definitely improved.
I remember
a lot of work.
you had a really great display in November for Indigenous people's books, and it was very cool.
Thanks. Before I was working as a librarian today, I was an ESL ELA teacher. So one thing that I would look for in curriculum would be trying to get them to connect with books, and a lot of kids would just walk by a book that just didn't look like them. If it was set, you know, like in Canada, they really weren't going to be attracted to that title. They really wanted to show something that was in their culture, and they got really excited when you could let them celebrate that culture. Considering we get to order hundreds of books every month, year round, with wonderful state and federal aid, 3% is really small. It's really small, so it can be better.
Yeah. I hope that you, the readers, become interested in learning about everything that makes up the universe of this book. The Akofena, the Orishas, the African names, and of course, the history of the Quilombo of Palmares. I hope that this story that I've written can awaken a desire to know more about the Black Brazilian population, its origins, glories, and fights. Above all, I offer this book with humble reverence to Dandara dos Palmares and her memory, which is alive and thriving, full of fire and movement. Legend or reality, her story is true, and it brings us inspiration and strength, and it can never be erased. Dandara vive! Would you like to be able to read it?
Yeah, I want to learn it.
Yes, me. But I will make you skip that page.
That's okay.
And I'll make you look at it. No, you won't. Not if I don't look.